Welcome, synthesizer sickos. I'm Vulture, and tonight we're going to be checking out a truly incredible synthesizer, the Kawai SX-240 from 1984. Now, a lot of people might not know this synthesizer because it's pretty rare. Less than 1,000 were ever made, but I'm sure you guys know the Kawai brand because they've put out some really incredible synthesizers, in particular carving a path forward with additive synthesizers, the Kawai K5, and then later in the 90s, the Kawai K5000S W, and I think there was a rack mount version. All were additive digital synthesizers, but before then, Kawai was actually making analog synthesizers. And a lot of people might know too that there are some SX-240s that are branded Teisco, and the reason is because Kawai acquired Teisco, and for a bit was making synths under the Teisco name. So, Damien, thank you very much for the $5. You are so cool. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate all the love. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Vulture, and we do a live stream every Wednesday night here on YouTube, and it's always involving synthesizers. I quite like vintage synthesizers, and so checking out an instrument that's, 41 years old or so, pretty amazing privilege to be able to do on this channel. But I also cover modern stuff, and I love the new VSTs that are coming out from companies like G4 and Cherry Audio. So if that's your thing, you can subscribe. It does help. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. How's it going? So this one is also going to be a little bit of me going back and fixing some misinformation that I've had over the while. So if you've seen me demo this synth before, you might have seen something like this, where I have a patch and it goes. Probably important too to be listening to the full version of what's happening here. This first patch, Movin', is a very good patch, right? And I believe what happened in previous streams is I got a little confused about keyboard assign versus dual mode. So if I go over to the parameter here to keyboard assign, you can see it says poly 8. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. I'm not sure if you can. And you can move that to poly 4 and mono. So mono does what you'd expect it to do, right? So if you put it into poly 4 mode, it seems to bring it up an octave, right? So because the thing about this synthesizer is, unlike almost all of the other synths from the 80s that had 6 voices, this one actually has 8. So like a Jupiter 8, what you can do is stack 2 layers on top of each other. So putting it into poly 4 mode, I was like, okay, that's fine, but it's not that impressive, right? Again, I'd prefer if you're listening to this in stereo. So what I was missing was this dual mode as opposed to a split. So most people are familiar with, you can split like a bass part on the left and then maybe a pad on the right, or a lead on the right, or pad on the left, lead on the right, that type of thing. But what we can actually do is go into dual mode, and now it's loading 2 separate patches, an upper patch and a lower patch. And it's on the left and right side, which for me is a major omission I made, and it's also a game changer in terms of sound. So what's occurring here, and again, hopefully, if you're listening in mono, like on your phone or something, you might not hear much of a difference at all, but the width is crazy. And I think where I was getting confused too on this was that, for instance, we're in dual mode, but what I can do is actually put, whoa, I don't want to change the course tune there. We can go to the ensemble effect over here, and we can turn it on. And then we can go to the upper, and same thing. We can just run over to ensemble over here and turn it on. And what's interesting is it's not going to be as wide. In my opinion, it's not quite as wide because what's happening is, although this ensemble is stereo, so if you're not using it in dual mode, it's really good for making patches sound really wide. In dual mode, both voices are then again fed into the same mono input of that ensemble and then spread via stereo, I believe. That's what it sounds like to me anyways. And it's just not quite as wide as if I turn that off on both voices, and then, you know, we can. So this one feature that I overlooked previously when I've done these streams, it's a big one, and it's a big omission, so I'm sorry if you've watched my other videos, and we've actually done several shootouts. And with that in mind, oh, and there's this octave up button, which moves the lower patch up an octave, which is just gorgeous. This is one of the coolest patches, isn't it? Maybe not if you're into like just the super heavy dark stuff, but dendritic fractals, how's it going? Now you can hear some voice stealing, right? So that's the interesting thing. There really weren't that many synthesizers made that had 8 voices. Even today, you tend to see 6 voices or even a jump to 12 voices. 8's kind of this funky number. And I can't think of course, aside from the Jupiter 8, how many other synthesizers had this 8-voice architecture thing. Yeah, the stereo-ness dub is just wild, and it's so, it really changes the way the synth feels to me. Because I was struggling with the fact that there was no way to like layer patches, maybe detune them monorally, just to get like a wider type of a thing. But what you can do here, being able to do this, but with this super big stereo, it's only 4 voices, and people will know that a 4-voice synthesizer like the Jupiter 4 or the Korg MS-2000, for instance, those 4 voices are rough for me, because I like playing kind of flowy sort of things. Once I know what I'm playing, it's the voice stealing's not bad, but until I do, it bothers when you play, right? But what I will say about something like a Jupiter 8, which I've never had the privilege to get my hands on, or a synth like this, is when you consider that it's running a complete synth voice on one side and on the other side, all of a sudden then you're like, oh, you know, 4 voices is fine. You know, because I can't really think of any vintage like 10-voice synths or something like that. Yeah, it's just very, very good. Triple says, if the chips, 2 voices per chip, so I'd need more chips, right? Yeah, Ed from Earth, how's it going? So yeah, that's the thing, is you would need, every time, you can think of a polysynth as being many monosynths. So if you think of a Prophet 5, it was really designed to be 5 mini Moogs at once that you could play from one keyboard, right? That's what a Prophet 5 is in its essence. Was Dave Smith had this obvious idea where he was like, why hasn't someone done this yet? And so yeah, Jupiter 8, total sex. I agree. And with that, guys, if you're new here, this is an important part of the live stream. I call the scum cheers. I'm drinking a Golden Monkey tonight, a fun craft beer. For any of you guys who've been hanging out near Expedition Everest in Animal Kingdom, they used to sell these. First time I had one was back in who the fuck knows when, back when Animal Kingdom was still young. So I would like to propose a cheers to you guys tonight, all of the amazing people who hang out every Wednesday night. You guys are phenomenal. We will get into some synthing. Sorry it's taken a bit to get going, but just want to say a huge thank you. So, can I get some scum cheers in the chat? God, I needed that. So, how's tonight going to go? I usually try to get here faster. What I'm going to do is actually put the synth in, I've created an init patch. I thought I created an init patch. There we go, init patch. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some patches tonight using the stereo opting controller, but you can actually program this thing so easily without one. I don't think you really need it. And we will sample some of these for the legendary synthesizer sample pack. But I thought it would be fun to take some viewer requests, ask you guys what you would like to hear as far as the synth can do. I want to start, because there's one sound that I did with this synth a while ago on one of these streams where I was like, this is a very good bass synth, actually, but I've never heard it in stereo, and I don't need that ensemble. And I also want to shout out Synth Forever. The idea for the stream actually came from checking out his video on the SX-210, and I just noticed he really leaned into the ensemble effect, which I kind of stayed away from because it is sort of Roland VP330 sounding, which is good, but just like on the Yamaha CS70M, it's very overpowering. So being able to get stereo sounds without having to use the ensemble all the time is huge. So let's start with just... We're going to go to the sub-oscillator here and turn it on. And I don't know if there's like a volume to the sub-os. Let me go. There it is. So you can really hear there. And we can change the shape here. So now we're hearing, I turn the saw off. We can turn the pulse width on. And we just have to adjust the pulse width down a little bit here. Or we can move it to pulse width modulation. I think we just need to go find the LFO real quick down here. So let's go to keyboard assign, and we'll put it into Poly 4. James Porch, welcome. Budart, DJ Cosmic Trancer, how's it going? From Switzerland. Oh my God, amazing. Welcome, welcome. And now we need to go and add some, where is it? The EG amount over here. I put it over into, here we go, we can turn down the... And we'll go into keyboard assign and put it into mono now. And then we need VCAEG. And now, let's see how it sounds with the sawtooth back in. because we do have these two DCOs, right? So we haven't even like gone into DCO 2. Let's turn it on. Off. It sounds like this. See if that range is right. We change the range on that oscillator. Somewhere in here, I think. Let's add a little more hate. Nico asks, what's the filter on this? This is an SSM 2044 filter chip. So the SSM filter chips have a heritage that go all the way back to the original, very earliest revision 1 Prophet 5s. Now that was a SSM 2040 filter chip that was used in the Prophet 5 Rev 1 and 2, which was then changed to Curtis chips with the Rev 3, which came out around 1980 or so. So we're still talking very old synths. But so these original SSM chips have a different kind of flavor to my ear than a lot of the other synths of this era. And that's part of why this synth is so expensive. To be honest with you, this synth is very expensive because it's rare. And it's beautiful. I think it's the most beautiful synth I own. I just think the teal is incredible looking, but I know it's not for everybody. Let's turn that sub-oscillator back on. Let's add a little more detune. That's correct, Todd. The K3, the Poly 6, and the Mono Poly. What else? PPG Wave had them. SSM 2040 filter chips. We've done a shootout before between the Kawai SX-240 and the K3, and they do sound different. There is something about this synth that sounds more, I don't know, something a little brighter, whatever, even though it's the same filter chip, surprisingly. Can we take that fine tune even further? Is that too much, guys? Oh, I like that idea a lot, Dub. And it will satisfy Tripwell as well. So looking at the delay, we can increase the LFO, I'm sorry. We can route that to the VCF here. Right, where do we do it? Oh, here it is. Going back to LFO, I'm gonna turn the delay off real quick. That's a beautiful sound. What is that? That's like a fucking probe droid, isn't it? But then using the delay, what that allows us to do is not have that LFO come in right away. Slow it down even further. I want even bigger delay. So the trick with LFO delay when you're making your own sounds, now of course, please do this type of sound design any way you want. And You can absolutely make this synth sound with something like a free synthesizer like Vital. I haven't done anything that's particularly crazy or unique only to this synth. Where you want to time, in my opinion, the pickup point of that LFO is kind of when the envelopes ran out of juice. So right around in here. Oh my gosh. All right, maybe there's a little too much delay because I want to have it glue into that sound. Yeah, there we go. It sounds very good. What are some other things we could do? We could turn auto bend on. That's a very slow bend up, right? Visions after the decay. Sorry, that makes sense. Or why it would be, the way I said that might not have been clear. So after the attack and decay, when it hits the sustain phase, that's for me where analog synths in particular kind of sound boring. The advantage of having VCOs and just analog synths in general is that the oscillators have a tendency to have some movement in them, so it's still kind of interesting to listen to. But especially with the digital synthesizer, if it goes like wow, and then it just holds on like a bowl, and there's no like variation there, it can sound very mechanical. So breaking it up with this sort of way is pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to reduce the amount of the LFO. It's just a little much. Can think of that we need to do to this. We could play around with brass and see how that changes things. What brass is either a ring modulator. It's in the manual it seems like it's a ring modulator, but to me it seems more like a cross mod. It's just adding a little harmonic, right? I don't think we need it on this one. So what else do we have? We have the oscillators. So this is DCO2. We could add some noise in if we just want to. Sometimes I like just a hint of noise to give that resonance on the filter something to chew on. So this is interesting too. We have this LFO disable feature. So what this does, another way we could use this is, for instance, let's say we wanted to make this would be I wouldn't sample it this way, but this is how you could make this awesome. Let's turn 75, I'll remember that number so we can save it that way. Or you know what, why don't we write this patch now, and we're gonna call this one, let me hit the memory write, and then it's gonna prompt us for a name. So let's call this one trip dub. I think I've got enough for, there we go, trip dub. And then I just have to hit, I think it was A8, and that should have saved it. There we go. But another way we could actually go about performing this is pretty unique to the synth, is instead of using the delay here, so it's just going to wub. And let's go ahead and emphasize that for this real quick. Now, if I hit the disable button, what that's going to do is it turns the LFO off, which might not sound that exciting. Where it gets interesting is we can press start, and it'll start from... So we can actually use it as a way to sort of perform it. I kind of like it again with a little bit more of that. So let's go ahead and put the delay back in of 75. I think that sounds really good, actually. I think it's better with it. Memory right, A8. There we go. So we've made a new patch, and I will sample this one for the legendary sample pack. But the whole point of this stream kind of is to now go to the lower mode and select A8 and in dual mode here. Fucking shit, man. Yo, fuck yeah. Banana Rider 69, how's it going? Okay, someone like Dubstation Zero might be better for answering the question of if it's the exact same Bucket Brigade delay chips from the Juno, but it is not the same chorus of the Juno, and in fact, I can display that for you very easily here. If we turn ensemble on, and then we go to lower, and we do the same thing, we turn ensemble on, right, you'll hear how much it's, I believe, a triplicate of Bucket Brigade delays. Thank you very much, Carl, by the way. And you can hear it, it also sculpts the sound quite a bit. We've lost a lot of the bass. So, of course, for me, before, this was a bit of like a thing that was very sad because I love bass, and I was like, well, you know, the only way to get the sound stereo, you lose that low end like you just heard. But now... We do have one feature or something about, I'm glad you're here too, Banana Rider. Something that's interesting about this is, yeah, MN009, those are those chips. No, so unlike your awesome, it's a dope for, and is it like a dual Bucket Brigade delay module that you have, Carl, where you can have some real control over it. Unfortunately, the control over this ensemble is just on or off. Like a lot of vintage synths, the chorus is either on or off. There's actually, you know, like a synth like the DW8000, it's just off camera here, as a digital delay, but it's very good at doing these types of things. One thing I could do is go into Portamento here And what'll happen is we now have portamento. And I think there's a portamento rate somewhere around here. Probably over here, yeah, porta speed. So now what we can do is slow down. But what's interesting is it only works on one side. So it never works on, so it says upper here, so it never works on the lower part. My name is Alex. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Cheers to Steve, and cheers to having names, without which it would be even more confusing to exist in this particular timeline. So cheers, guys. So there's almost no effects whatsoever. I have a very small amount of cloudburst, Strymon cloudburst. So now I'm going to move on to my next init patch. I want to make a strings patch now. And again, we can use this dual feature to make it really beautiful. So the first thing I actually recommend, and I didn't do this last time, but if I had good synthesizer sound designer hygiene, I would make every patch this way. And the way would be to start with the VCA. It's super boring, but when you get the sound right with the VCA, everything else follows very good. It's like if you can get the type of sound you want with the amplifier first, then you can shape the rest of it. It gets very beautiful. So let's do that. Let's slow it down. A synth that responds the way you would think it would. So we can bring the sustain down. And we get a kind of a nice, and I suppose we could maybe set our decay to about the same amount. I do believe that's correct, Carl. So one of the advantages, okay. So all of the most famous vintage synths actually come from a 3-year period. It's crazy how short of a time it was that the golden age of analog synths were. With the launch of the CS80 and the Prophet 5 in 1978, you'll read on Wikipedia it was 77. It was like it says it's designed in 70. It was not at all available until 78. And then you have something like the Jupiter 8 coming out in 81, I want to say. By 82, we've already crossed over into what people, I think, mistakenly call the late 80s sound. And that's with synths like the Prophet 600, the Jupiter 6, right? The Korg Poly 61. We're starting to see these like cut down, more budget-oriented synthesizers. Not to say that any of them are bad, by the way. Once we get to 82, it's like MIDI is rough in 82. JX3P, MIDI is fucked. It's like, you know, there's some shit that's not worked out well. By the time you get to about 84, they really had it down. And you have things like synthesizers like the Chroma Polaris here that responds to polyphonic aftertouch over MIDI, also from 1984. The Oberheim Expander, incredibly deep synthesizer, truly multi-timbral. So all 6 voices of that synthesizer can be controlled individually with MIDI. So again, polyphonic aftertouch. Stuff like that, or Rhodes Chroma. What are some of the other synths? You know, I can't think of, Prophet VS came out later, but, you know, synths like that all of a sudden are much more fully featured. And I think this is an example of that too, to get onto a tirade about our favorite topic, MIDI. So let's just add some release. Not too much release. I'm going to keep the release a little short because we are only going to have 4 voices at the end of this. We're going to bring the sustain up so the decay doesn't go so far. So let's, now that we have that, we haven't played with the filter at all. I don't know what you guys think would be the right way to go about the filter when it comes to making a strings patch. I don't really have a recipe for it, I think. I have more of a recipe for like the VCA. I'm pulling a little sustain out, and the reason is just so that, you know, if you're playing a pad, sometimes it's nice to have a pad that's just like very constant, sustain all the way up. Sometimes it's nice if the pad comes in and then it breathes away. You know, it's not always there. I'm gonna tighten up the attack a bit. I think it could be a little snappier. A little more, maybe even? Let's play around. Let's get a little slower. I'm just kind of mirroring the two. And it, you know, with this sort of attack decay, somewhat lower sustain, it's almost like the hit of a bow, right? And that's what we're trying to do is I wouldn't say like emulate a string, you know, because it's not really going to sound like real, like a fucking 32-piece violin, you know, like it's not what it's going to sound like. It's going to sound like a synth. But to take inspiration, I think that little bit of we're sort of in that violin territory. So one thing that a mistake I see, and by see, I mean see myself do all the time, is start to go into the oscillators here and turn DCO2 on and then take the level and start detuning, right? And it's understandable. But one thing is, the reason I don't think that's a great idea in this case is we're going to eventually run this through the ensemble, which is going to add some pitch variation in there. And in this case, it's going to add quite a bit. So does anybody know if the ARP Selena uses square waves or sawtooth waves as the basis for its sound? I'd be just curious. So if we turn the ensemble, here's without. On. James, I don't believe so on this synth. I don't think this one's deep enough to allow us to do something as cool as envelope on the detune. I think we would need like the Matrix 6 or something, something deeper than that. Which, for what it's worth, you know, this is an expensive synthesizer. I think they're going for like $2-3 grand, something like that nowadays. You know, you can get Matrix 6 for like $1,400, and that has some features this doesn't have. This also has stuff that it doesn't actually. Was all square wave. So then let's just go ahead and see how that sounds with the sawtooth off and turn the pulse wave on, and then make sure the pulse width is all the way down. So is it giving? Is it giving? Is it giving that Solina sound? Let's add a little bit of release. I think I need a little more. Just a bit. I think square's a good bet. Also, doesn't sound bad. Let's turn that back off. Turn that off, back to the sawtooth. I do love the way the ensemble moves the stereo image around. So that's part of when I watch Synth Forever's video. Incredible channel, by the way. If you haven't subscribed to Synth Forever, really, like, Just imagine kind of what I do, except more eloquent and better played. Like that's his channel. I love the way that that moves around in the stereo spectrum. I think it's very beautiful. But we could turn it back off and go over to the pulse wave. This is tough. I like both of them, you know? Let's turn that off, and then let's explore DCO2. Let's turn that on. It's interesting, DCO2's a square as well, but it sounds different than... Let's turn that off, and then, wait, let's go explore the pulse wave. That's really interesting that the pulse wave is kind of always more narrow than DCO2. All right, so let's turn that off and let's go to DCO2 then and see. I actually think it sounded better with the pulse wave, which is surprising. I'm just trying to go, I want to have a patch at the end of this, so you guys shout out what you think I should do. That's going to give a little of that, like Blade Runner, Tears and Rain, VP330. Roland VP330 was a famous string machine, also vocoder, also like choir sounds. But it had this ensemble bucket brigade thing where it had these multiple bucket brigades that was really lush, that wasn't like that on the Junos or the Jupiters. Let's take maybe just the range up. It's very beautiful, but we turn that, let's turn that off. Now let's turn the sub-oscillator on and try this one out. Sub-oscillator off. Sub-oscillator on. I think it sounds really good with the sub-oscillator. We don't even really need the second DCO, but let's just see. I'm afraid of losing the purity of the thing, you know? It's kind of, yeah, team sub off. Let's turn that off. And then maybe we'll add a little bit of detune. Like 4 seems like a perfectly good value for this synth. Every time I taste this beer, it brings me right back to The Little Village by Expedition Everest. I think I just prefer it with the DCO2 off. Am I crazy about that? I don't have the I don't think I can start a poll here. What I could go for. Chris says, I was wondering, can we make modern sounds on vintage synths? Seems like evolving pads or self-playing patches. We always do. String pads, e-piano, brass all the time. I'm wondering what else we could do. Yeah, well, I think that's a good next patch to go for, actually, Chris. So I'll take you up on that battle there. Yeah, I just think it kind of sounds good, just like... I'm not saying it sounds like a VP330, because I've never owned one. I couldn't really tell you. But what it does do is, I feel like if I played, you know, some kind of moody, what would the chords be? Something like this. You know, something down here and... kind of get into that Blade Runner-y territory. Where's my range on this whole thing? I want to go down from there. What have I done to create this problem? There we go. You guys have been way too kind tonight. This is ridiculous. Robert M., thank you very much for your kind comment and for $10. Really means a lot, guys. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I really do appreciate everybody. This sound to me is kind of what I'm going for, right? Like a... maybe a little bit. Now we need to slow it down a little bit. You know, it's changing, it's evolving. Yeah, we should definitely put the LFO, thank you, Dub, to, here we go, where is the LFO? Here we are. Let's increase some. I'm gonna make it kind of extreme real quick just to make the, let's increase the speed. And then we can just turn it down dramatically, or we can add some delay. Somewhere like that, and then we can just turn it way down. I meant use the muted VCO as a mod source. So I don't think I can use, I could try using the brass feature here. And then we could change the chorus tuning. So this is super interesting. So I turn this off. When I turn it on, it like brings it down an octave because of the cross mod. Or it brings in these interesting... It's almost like a fifth chord, right? Yeah, 5 is about as far as I want to push the LFO. Actually sounds really good with that little bit of ring mod in there. I'm so glad you said that, Dub, because that takes the sound. So I'm gonna actually increase the range up a little bit, so. Taking it in this really sci-fi sort of space. Too much LFO. We'll take it down one more. Now, of course, we could add a little bit of auto bend in, right? You know, if we wanted a little of that action. Just a little. Pitchy. I think that's really brought it into a new place. We could play around with the high pass filter for fun. I kind of ignore this controller because it's so easy to program from the thing, but let me just look real quick. I guess yellow is high pass filter. You know, if we want to give it a little EQ, pull out some of the low end, like a vintage string machine might not have too much low end. It's nice that this synth has a fully variable high-pass filter. One of the things that bothers me with, like, say, the Roland JX series is you've got, like, a few discrete values for the high-pass filter. And, you know, for me, a high-pass filter is a destructive thing. It does a lot of damage to the sound, but it's like your most powerful mixing tool. But it can just castrate a sound. So I love when I have control over it. Synth Sonic, you know what's so crazy? You're saying a little more attack on the filter envelope. We've made this sound without using the filter at all. I want you guys to think about that. So in my mind's palace, what I'm trying to do here is pick out kind of that lowest fundamental and bring that back on the lowest note. If I pull this all the way out, yeah, I don't know how well you guys can hear that, but there's like a thickness down there. Just the slightest amount to pull out that low end, because we'll never need it. I mean, that's like kind of the territory that the bass line should be hanging out in. So that sounds very good. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and move this up here, and we're going to write this one, and so we'll go write memory, and then name, we'll call it, let's go with ice. Then I love that you can type in stuff 9K. There we go. I guess I can't really say planet with just 3 characters. So ice 9K, it's in there. And then just write that in and I'm good to go. So we have a different patch. And now we're, back into. Yes, the LFO is free running. This sounds really good. I don't know if it sounds like the Behringer VC 340. I would love to like compare this type of sound to that and see where it's at, you know, what the business is. Because I'm sure that's a good clone. That definitely came out during the era of Behringer where the clone seemed real good. Now the clones are feeling a little cloney, you know what I mean? So yeah. Fissions, I think I've just been at this way too long. Like, and without a doubt, someone like Dubstation Zero has more knowledge than me. I say it all the time. Like, I shouldn't even just single him out because I love to pick on him. But the truth is, probably about 90% of the viewers of the channel have more knowledge than I do. And it's something I'm aware of when I'm doing this type of thing where I'm like, I'm probably boring a few people. But what was I going to do? Oh, I wanted to actually get the filter involved because we haven't used the filter at all. But I saved it ahead of time so we can always go back to this because I think this is pretty close to perfect. I think it sounds beautiful. If we bring the filter in now. Okay, so Reese the key tracking here. Because that's one of the big things with, it depends on the instrument, because sometimes you don't really want key tracking, but I like with these sorts of big sounds where I'm going to be playing all over the keys, right? It's kind of good to have. I'm very glad you didn't sell it either, 40 Thieves. You're another one of those just knowledge monsters. It is so vowely, right? Close to that self-oscillation there. So now what we've done is we've taken it into a choir sort of space. You can hear, the way to do that, by the way, is to use an amount of key tracking and then to sort of pick out, like, the recipe that seems to work for me is an octave up from the fundamental. And by emphasizing that, you sort of start to take it into that. You know, it's always got that like Mellotron, Kraftwerky type. So now we're really into some cool territory. If I bring the resonance back out, it's just kind of boring. And if we go too far, you know, then it goes into self-oscillation and watch your ears. The fact that it's not perfectly in tune is pretty painful there. But just shy of that. Wow. I hate the fact that it's difficult to nail down which version I like, you know, because this is beautiful too. Well, you know what? I know that, how many characters do I have? I think I have enough. I can't remember if there was another patch in Bank B that was blank, but I do remember that C1 was blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this one too, because this is really good. And it's kind of funny because I didn't mean to do this, but it is kind of like the 330, right? So you're seeing how you can take one divided down oscillator, because that's all a 330 has, is one oscillator divided down. Or I think it has one oscillator per octave. So if it's 6 octaves, then that's 6 oscillators, right? It's kind of funny. It's not that different than a 6 oscillator Juno or something like that, I suppose. But so memory right, and we're going to call this one Ice Kawai. And I have just enough, and then we'll write it to C1. And now we have that. So B7, back over here, we have, you know, A7? Wait. Where were we? Oh, B3. And then C, yeah, so C1 and B3. I thought I lost it. I was so sad. Do you think it's too bright? Now comparing the two, I'm like, is it too bright? This patch is so Kraftwerky, isn't it? It does right now, 40. It does have that. It does have that almost more 70s type of sound. And Lonnie, yes, there's less than 1,000 of these were ever made, and who knows how many of them have survived. I have a little skiff cut, like little damage right here. Aside from that, this particular Kawai SX-240, I had all of the panel switches replaced on it. And otherwise it's like in pretty close to, I wouldn't call it mint. I guess it's excellent condition. It's a pleasure to have an instrument like this. And so now that we've created these two sounds, I mean, there's only really one thing left to do, right? Which is upper mode, and then the lower is this, and now we have it in stereo. I think we have it in stereo. Oh, I have dual. Let's go to dual upper. Yeah, there we go. And see if there's a difference, really. Interesting is it's not really better when you're using the ensemble. I think it is technically better. But you hear the voice stealing, right? Rob, this is metal, and it weighs not that much. It weighs kind of whatever a regular synth weighs. I don't know how to quantify that, but it weighs exactly one synth. Now, there are some synths that weigh a shit ton, and this wouldn't be one. It's definitely lighter than the Chroma Polaris that's directly above it, if anybody knows. Dub Station, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole, but that is funny. Yeah. 40 says, his was dropped, corner completely smashed, had to make new wood sides for it. Battery also burst open, but saved it in time. So that's another thing with these is you have to make sure that you get the battery out, kind of like a Poly 6. This one, of course, has had that happen too, and I believe it's Tontec modded as well. I'd have to actually remember shit to be able to do that. Going back to B3 now, and then going to the lower level, and now we're upper and lower are the same. Let's see. See, to me, it's not really giving all that much of a difference. Of course, we could use the octave up, right? Because it's feeding it all through that the input of the ensemble, I'm pretty sure, is mono. And so since it's feeding everything into that, you end up not necessarily getting a lot of bang for your buck. So what was it? Chris said, yeah, the DSS-1 is fucking huge. Yes, and it is Tontec modded. Okay, I thought that, but I all of a sudden started questioning it because this hasn't been my favorite synth to work with, and I'm really regretting that now. I realize that I've neglected this thing. I always knew the SSM filters were incredible in it, but there was some, is niggles a word? There were some things about it that made me go, it's not 100% what I was looking for. But this feature I'm aware of now has changed my mind. So let's go to a new init patch. Oh, take it out of dual. Oh, I didn't even mention that. We can use in dual mode different patches. So the upper could be that and the lower could be Ice Choir. So now we really can VP 330. Now I'm turning up the lower over here, so. With the Tontec mod, can you use SysX to back up patches? 40 Thieves, I can't tell if that's exactly what you're saying. Yeah, the DCOs are super good. So that's another thing, is we can actually stack patches. For me though, with this particular case, I don't think it's really necessary. Let's turn dual off, and now we're in it? No. Upper. What was it Chris wanted? Mighty Pinto, how's it going? You were talking about like really complex, evolving soundscapes, right? Was that what I was hearing? I feel like that's what I was hearing. If that's the case, what we could do is actually use a really cool feature. We've got hold here. So what I could do is actually hold a chord, right? So we could just pick something. Let's play. So we're just holding that now. And we'll start to do some sound design. And then we'll add some LFO action in here. I'll have to look into that 40. Damien's just got a Minilog XD and emailed me about like the tuning issues with it. And it was like, it's so crazy that modern synths have worse tuning issues than synths from 40 years ago. I still really like the Minilog though, the XD in particular. So what I'm gonna do is, I love the movement to that. We can play with the LFO shape, actually. Where is it? LFO waveform here. You know, depending on what we're looking for. See, this is why an SSM synthesizer is so good. I mean, listen to the way this filter has completely gone in a different direction than if we had like a Curtis chip, which I love, by the way. I mean, I love the Oberheim sound, but this is just beautiful. In this case, I really like the almost wave morphing sound of that wave. So I'm not going to use the envelope to affect the filter at all because I love the way that's sounding, you know. But what I think I'm going to do is now use the we need to add some VCA in and some oscillator stuff. Maybe we'll start with the oscillators. Difference of the sub-oscillator and not. So sub-oscillator off, sub-oscillator on. So I actually like it with just the saw and DCO2. I don't think you need the square wave, the pulse wave PWMing also. That's a really interesting point. So Rob Swords and Synthesizer says, I wonder how much of these sounds were accidental versus by design. It's so unique, I can't imagine preconceived oscillators sound like this. It's an interesting thought experiment. So like I've said on the channel that I wonder if tuning a synthesizer, and I prefer a different word than tuning because people will think I mean like the literal act of tuning the oscillators. But what I mean is the way that they get the gain into the filters and the resonance compensation, all those other little details. I don't believe in magic. What I believe is that nuances accumulate to give you the chills, you know, to give you that magic feeling as a musician. It's not so much what the listener is going to notice. So when we do these like A/B tests and it's like, okay, you know, you can hear a difference between this synth and maybe a VST recreation or something. But what, you know, when it comes to like just the average person listening to music, it's probably more the song that matters, like the melody and the lyrics and all of that sort of a thing, the production. But for the musician, which I like to imagine myself to be, and you guys as well, it is these little differences that take you, like the sound is like, oh my God, like I'm in love with the beauty of this sound. It's so unique and different than, like you said, anything you could kind of come up with accidentally just by like, you're not going to find this sound in Serum, right? And so there is this thing where even the modern analog synths, to me, sometimes don't quite have the magic. And I hate that because I don't want to become a vintage snob. Can I get some scum snobs in the chat? But there is sometimes some synths sound really good. Let's just leave it at that, right? Whether it's modern or vintage. And I happen to sort of like the vintage ones because it's just more interesting, maybe. I do think the synth has some flaws. So, you know, I don't want to oversell it here, but actually do amplitude modulation too, right? Might be nice to have a little bit in there, right? Just a little. Just a little bit. So as that LFO rises up, when it goes down, it actually pulls the volume back just a little bit. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think since like the Hydra synth, Behringer 2600, like they're amazing at what they do. I think I'm really just trying to say this synth is amazing as well. And I was listening to the Art of Rock podcast, which is over on Angel Spit's channel. If you haven't yet, you got to subscribe. And I listen every Saturday. I'm pretty sure I've been a fan of the Art of Rock podcast much longer than they've been watching my channel. And one of the things that they were talking about this last week was like using the gear you have. And even though, of course, I have this gear in the studio, I'm going to use it and kind of try to go in a certain direction. What I'm always hoping to do is not inspire gear acquisition syndrome in anybody, but instead, you know, with the sound that we have going, inspire someone to go, oh, I think I can make a sound like that. And you absolutely can with a Behringer DeepMind or a Korg Minilog XD. You know, like you can make this type of sound. It might not sound exactly the same. It might sound better on your synthesizer. You know, like let's not forget that just because this thing is older and rarer does not mean it's inherently better. And there's no doubt in my mind that whatever synthesizer you have in front of you, even if it's a freeware VST, can make a sound that's potentially even more gorgeous than this. You know, but this is a gorgeous synth. I'm going to turn hold off. And that was, what was it? It was something like this. So we have to add some attack and attack. We'll leave the sustain all the way up this time. So that way that just kind of keeps evolving, it keeps moving. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I was on the wrong setting. I wanted to be on blue. Oh, let's make sure the glissando's off, portamento speed's down, high pass filter, ensembles all off, and then plenty of attack, and then make sure we have plenty of release too. Not too much. It's a good amount of release. Now it's just, it's kind of interesting as like a keys type of sound. I know we're supposed to be doing evolving pads. I might like this sound better like this. It's just too good. But if we add the attack in and we put a real slow attack on it, I mean, we can absolutely take it into that territory, right? This is one of the most beautiful fucking sounds. It is so great. And I mean, that is the thing about an SSM filter. And by the way, I mean, there are SSM filter recreations 2044 essentially in the modern sequential stuff. So, you know, and they do a great job of really capturing the magic. I do believe that. I think that they have consistently put out great products that catch that sort of a thing. I think Dub Station Zero, you've got a Take 5, right? I totally believe you could get this type of sound with a Take 5, for sure. To write this to memory now. We're going to call it so memory write, and we're going to call it SNOB. There's even a space bar. PAD, snob pad, and then C2, right? But these are 24 decibel per octave filters, so you're kind of typical, you know, 4-pole filters. I don't have that many synths in the room that are 2-pole. Prophet 12 can do 2-pole, but I don't really ever feel myself doing it. I don't know, Dub, I know you have a Prophet 12 as well. If you ever find the 2-pole filter useful. CS70M is only 2-pole. Definitely a part of its sound. Devin Belanger. My friend Devin was asking me from miles away, or mentioned the CS70M again. And I just said, you know, most of it is the 2-pole filter, which you can get, I think, in plenty of modern synths. Matrix 12 has 2-pole. Modulus can be a 4-pole or a 1-pole, which is weird. They skip right past 2-pole. I think the rest of my synths are all, yeah. There's one more synth off camera you guys haven't seen on the channel yet, that can go 2-pole as well. But yeah, just so good. This has been a game changer for me too, Dub, on selling this. I don't think that's let's see. Robert M asks, Alex, how do you think this compares to the Kawai K3? I've actually done a video comparing it to the K3, and for one thing, I didn't know there was a dual mode. So when I compared it to the K3, maybe it wasn't the best comparison because of that. A little bit of a difference there. The K3 is a great synth, and it's a lot cheaper than this synth. And with that in mind, it is a very good thing, especially when you use it to do additive stuff, which obviously you can't do with this, or really lean in to the wavetables. When you use it, so unlike maybe an SQ80 or a DW8000, I no longer sort of think as the K3 as being like good at emulating vintage. Some of the pads are good. Some of the patches are good, I mean, is what I meant to say. But what I really think it's good at is just being a really unique, glassy, dark synthesizer. But in the comparison video, if I'm recalling correctly, I remember hoping that the K3 was going to be so great that I could just sell the SX-240 outright and feel like, hey, the SX-240 is like a K3, but it doesn't have the wavetables, and the K3 sounds as good. And that wasn't the case. I do remember shooting it out and being like, wow, the SX-240 actually has a little bit of, something to it that the K3 doesn't have. Now, as of this today, it's a very beautiful thing. I want to try it without the attack here. So let's just turn that down. just a little attack. I don't know, it's so... There, just a little bit of attack. So I'm going to sort of overwrite that. And now we can put it into dual mode, C3, C2, and then lower C2, and then upper. So now let's hear how it sounds in stereo. Because we didn't use, that's the crazy thing, is we didn't use the ensemble. So. I could cry. That is such an incredible sound. I'm so excited for that sound to be in the legendary synthesizer sample pack, because, you know, and it's in this case, I really can't take a lot of credit for it. Chris, you're the guy who inspired this one, and it's the synth. It's kind of to like Rob's point about like, you wouldn't maybe even it would be hard to engineer it to sound like this, you know? But wow, just incredible. Yeah, and that was no ensemble on that patch. That was just the synth without. It actually, for most patches now, I think it sounds better without the ensemble. Although for certain sounds, it's kind of part of it, right? With like the earlier, the VP330 thing we were doing, it was definitely that. So guys, we're gonna do a speed round. We're coming to the end of the live stream. One more sound we're gonna create. So let's find another blank patch, 7. And just in case I'm in trouble and I need another one, D5. So C7. We can do one more sound tonight. We have time for one more. So anybody in the chat, shout out what they'd like as far as something different. Oh yeah, the little Kawai mixer. I love that. That was a really cool sound. And I also should figure out a way to send you that patch, 40 Thieves, because, you know, now this number I'm about to say is like an insane number, because you have to think of like the number of times people click on a video for a split second accidentally, and probably half of it is like bots, right? But according to YouTube, 10,000 unique viewers a month watch this channel. And there's only 1,000 SX-240s ever made. And of that, how many of them are still around today? So unlike a bunch of other synthesizers that I've covered on this channel, last week we looked at the JX8P, an incredible vintage analog synth. But one that, you know, the thing is like, I feel good about recommending a $700-ish synthesizer to you guys. That's that good. This one, I almost feel like a certain kind of guilt, because I'm like, even if y'all wanted one, there's just only a couple on reverb at any given moment, you know. Let me see what we hear. if anybody's thrown something in. I appreciate that visions. Nymphes is a really cool one. Yeah, 2 in this community. That's awesome. Crazy veering into atonal. Yeah, okay, so we can do that. So if we want to go atonal with it, right? Maybe we'll do some sort of lead sound, but like an atonal lead. So we're going to turn brass on. Immediately we get that sort of nasally. And then I believe if we change the course, almost sounds like it almost sounds like hard sync, right? It would be really great if like you could LFO, but only to, I think the LFO is always routed to all of the oscillators, and then so we can't get there. I'm looking just at the synth and trying to see if we can get there. There's no way to like assign an envelope to the pitch of the oscillator, is there? There's only auto bend, right? But that, I think that again will affect everything. Wait, why is auto bend doing like nothing now? I feel like that should be doing something, but maybe I'm missing something. So brass back on. Back to the coarse tuning of DCO2. Interesting, negative 48 almost becomes like a sub-oscillator. Certainly a cool sort of sound. So that's kind of how we could get into like a ravey. This synth does have chord memory, by the way, but I don't know. I don't really care about that type of thing. Let's turn the sawtooth off. Oh, this is interesting. DCO2 is off. So everything's off. I don't know what I was fucking expecting, but I wasn't expecting the ring modulator to be its own sound source. Turning this off, we have nothing, right? I can bang away at the keys and nothing occurs. But turning this on, oh, let's change the tune. This might not be atonal. But we can make one hell of a fucking Reese with this. Is there a volume knob just on this synth? Other than that volume knob, like just on the EG all the way up? There we go. Yeah, the ensemble just kills that because it lowers all of that. Okay, so we're going to do kind of a Reese type thing now. I'm sorry, I had to. It's just so good. And let's go to the tuning again. aquatic. I mean, that's just brutal, isn't it? Fucking tariffs. Yeah, that's a good point, Dub. It's like, I do want to do something atonal, and maybe we'll do a follow-up stream to this in a couple of weeks or something. We'll make some more patches, but I got to follow this where it's going, using it all the way down. Interesting how it kind of sounds like a sawtooth down saw at coarse +1, and then an up saw at coarse -1. And then we do have fine tuning too, so we can adjust that. What's the fucking... I'm thinking of Messiah by Conflict. We need... So we've taken it down a semitone, but we're tuning it back up with the fine tune. Somewhere in there, that sort of range where it's beating, I'm thinking it's a drum and bass song, so it's like 169 BPM or something like that. If you want to hear a badass song, listen to the Computer Club and La Castlevania remix of Conflict's Messiah. That's a fucking banger. Back in the fetish clubs, that's what we were banging out. Wumpscut intro. I'd have to think of which one that is. What song are you thinking of, Brian? 40, the autobend is dependent of LFO delay setting. Oh, okay. So that's what was happening. Okay, I got it now. Oh, that's crazy. That's cool, actually. So we have that sound. Now what we need to do, turn key tracking all the way down. Bring a little of the high end out to make it even. Now in the original song it does use portamento, but that will fuck it up in the dual mode. Right, especially when we put it into mono mode, right? That's fucking something. All right, so DCO2 is off. Let's turn it on. We don't really need it, do we? I think it's just better with this nasty. It's a little quiet, but just because of the nature of we're only using only the sound of the ring mod, which will probably be the differences between the oscillators. So we'll turn portamento off for now. So we could add some LFO. I don't think we really need too much movement. We could do a little bit of filter fall, right? So we could, and then go to sustain. Turn it into like a really dark pluck. But I think we don't need too much. We'll use just a little bit, right? So it's a Reese, but we do get a little falling action. So it's not, the filter's not just static. And then we don't really need too much more. We could add a little bit of release to the thing. We could add some LFO to the filter too, you know, if we wanted, just a little bit in there. It's just adding even more movement into the sound. I'm gonna dial it back so it's not so crazy. Slow it down slightly. 52 is a good number. Good. Just a little less resonance, actually. I think that's about perfect. So we're going to go memory right, and we're going to call this one me psi and then right to C7. Oh no. Did I lose it? No. 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 Oh no. Christ in heaven. No. No. I don't know what I did wrong. Okay, speed run time, guys. Let's I kind of remember some of the values. Brass on, oscillator off. We're gonna go to, what was it? Range. No. It was coarse tune -1, fine tune +1. something like that. We'll go to, what was it? VCA, sustain all the way up, and EG all the way up. We'll go to, I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible. I'm sorry, guys. VC EG amount. One good thing about having the knobs is if you just kind of put the knobs back where they were. And you put it into keyboard assigned mono mode. I prefer VSTs. I don't know what I did wrong there. And then we just need to add some movement to the LFO. Speed was 48. I remember that. And we just need to add some LFO to the filter. And resonance. And that's pretty close, right? That's pretty good. Okay. Memory right. What did I do wrong? Okay. M E S S I A H. There it goes. We're good. Okay, we're in. We did it. Finally, we can listen to this patch in stereo. So, D, C7, lower C7. Oh, it's really interesting how it moves in the spectrum. I can't tell if it's because it's got two LFOs running. It does seem like it's got at least two LFOs, which is kind of crazy to think about because I would have thought a synth this old wouldn't have the CPU cycles to spare to be able to, give us that extra LFO per patch, but I think it's there. Now, I know this might not sound like that incredible here, but like if you sample that and use that as a sound source and apply additional processing, like and I like it with not too much resonance. For this sound, bass sound, sometimes you don't want too much. The SSM filters do lose bass, more like a Moog filter. So it's 11 o'clock. We've run a little late, but holy shit, this was a fun stream. Let's just look real quick at what we've created. So we've got this bass line. I need to put both layers into upper layer is A8 and lower layer is A. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Oh, that's why it would have two LFOs. That makes sense because one patch could have one LFO and one could have the other. In this case, we're using kind of like the same patch twice, but that's why you're getting that interesting stereo movement, especially when I got to remember to use the LFOs more when creating these stereo patches with this synth because you're going to get much more interesting movement in there. So that was our first sound. Then we have the Ice Planet one, you know? And lower. Yeah, so, I mean, just... And then even out of dual, you know, it still sounds really good. And then, what was it? We had the next one we did was C1. C1? Oh, I'm in lower. There we go. Really great Kraftwerk-y sort of vibe to it. The greatest pad sound of all time. Just gorgeous. And then finally, Messiah. And we should definitely do this one in dual, right? And then the lower is going to be C7 and go. So good. Well, I will have them sampled in the future upcoming Legendary Sample Pack Volume 2. We've already got 100 patches in Volume 1, which is crazy. That's over 2,000 samples. It's a lot of time. And it's only $10 right now. So that's like, you know, I originally wanted to sell it for $30, but, you know, with the economy the way it is and everything, I just kind of felt it on my heart that I wanted to make it possible for people to be able to make music. And I love VSTs, but I think samples are a really cool starting point. And if you're one of those people who's got a VST that they love, but they're a little in a rut with it, like I'm that way with Omnisphere. I think Omnisphere is the greatest synth ever made. But, you know, when I turn it on, I sort of do the same things with it. You know, and that's kind of the advantage of hardware is you can't. You have to deal with what's in front of you. You have to, okay, what can I do now? You know, explore it sort of a thing. And so my goal with the Legendary Synth Sample Pack was to enable musicians to get these vintage tones into their productions and then do their own thing with it. So use it as a starting point. You know, of course, I use the synth from Blue Monday to make the Blue Monday bass line sound. And you could just load that into Serum too, and it'll sound like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you take that sound and then do new things with it, make it your own, that's very exciting to me. So anyways, guys, what an awesome one. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of you. What a fun one. So I'm going to jump back over to the main computer. I'm sorry I ran a little late tonight, but hopefully it was fun for you guys. I'm going to play back the video and see what I did, you know, that caused that to not save, because what a fucking nightmare that was. But, you know, what a fun one tonight. And I'm really glad that I spent the time with you guys tonight to explore the synth, because I was ready to sell the SX-240. Not because it's not great. It does sound great, but I have a lot of great synths. You know, I've got a bunch of VCO-based synths. So it's like, what's this SX-240 doing for me? But tonight, man, did that synth earn its keep. So, god damn it, it's another forever synth. It's gonna be hard to get rid of that. So, thank you guys so much for an incredible evening. Continue to be excellent, guys. I'll see you next week.